It really comes down to 100% personal responsibility.
Okay.
I cannot blame other people for what I'm experiencing. I really cannot. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling like crap is hitting the fan, if I feel like the wheels are spinning too fast and I cannot catch up,
Right.
I'm responsible, right? Like I could say, hey, Abe, you've put so much on my plate that I just can't. I don't usually use that word.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling triggered,
Yeah.
it's not about the other person.
Yeah.
I don't cry when you ask me, how are you? Because you ask me in a genuine, authentic way, which I've been sharing that. Yet it's because there are things that I haven't dealt with. And I've mentioned earlier too, that everything that is happening in my life now, it's based on all the choices that I've chosen to make and based on the choices I've chosen not to make.
Right. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flourishing podcast, and we are so pumped that you're with us as we take a deep dive into flourishing in life, flourishing in your relationships, flourishing in your mental health, flourishing in your physical health, your business, in every area of life. Flourishing is for every single one of us. And so in this podcast, we're spending time talking to people and each other about flourishing and how we can figure that out in our lives. And so today we have an incredible guest, and your name is
Cynthia Chow Huang.
Hey, Cynthia Chow Huang. That sounds like a good name to me. And of course, I know your name. Cynthia, actually, we work together, and you're actually our first official guest. And I just said actually like 9 times in the last 30 seconds. And so I'm going to actually stop saying actually for just a moment. But anyways, back to you. Cynthia, we work together, and Cynthia is 100% a lady who flourishes and thrives in every area of her life. And so Cynthia, your role and your day job with us is you are our director of sales. But what that really means, we should maybe even change that to director of relationships, because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships and connection for you, isn't it?
Absolutely. Definitely. Connecting with people is huge because it's not so much about what we can offer as a package. It's about the relationship, the community, and the success that we offer.
Right on. So, I'd love for you to just take us on a bit of a dive into, the story about you. I mean, we want to know everything from your social insurance number to your credit card number. No, just joking. We just want to know about your story, a little bit about your journey.
For sure. Well, personally, I grew up born and raised here in Calgary, and I love the city. I always tell people when you step off the plane, this is home. And I grew up in a happy home, happy meaning up and downs and all arounds. Yet when my parents got divorced when I was 11, I think that's where I pivoted to a point of where I realized that if anything were to happen, I got to do it by myself. And I carried that along with me for my entire personal and professional life until I found this tribe. I've had friends that came and left, and I realized after being a part of Flourishing and actually partnering with you, Abe, 4.5 years ago, is that I got so far by myself, yet I can only get further with a community who's safe to be around. And so taking a look at my journey, even director of sales and now also if we add relationships, is that I shared with our sales team training team today, actually, I thought it started when I was 14 or 16 in the gift wrapping industry. And I realized then, actually, my mom told me it started when I was in elementary.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. She picked up my backpack one day and she's like, how come it's so heavy and it's jingling? And I had a whole pocket full of quarters.
What?
And I was selling, I don't remember this, I was selling my snacks.
Wow.
25 cents a pop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy story. I had somebody message me on Facebook yesterday who I went to grade 8 with. That, when that happens, that's so weird. And she left me a voice message, and the first line was, "Do you still carry a comb around in your back pocket?" So it reminded me back in the day, I had a mullet, and I wore it with pride. It was like I wanted to be like Wayne Gretzky. But back to you. So you had a bunch of quarters. What does that tell you about yourself?
That accumulation of little things can create big things.
Okay, but what else does it tell you about yourself?
I'm great.
little psychoanalytical moment here. You got the money.
Yeah.
It's in a knapsack. What's going on? Little girl. Yeah. Okay. It's all about being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You've had that as a passion for many years, right?
Yeah. And I didn't realize it was there, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
I look back in hindsight.
well, those stories about ourselves, so you're carrying around quarters and I'm carrying around combs. So what does that tell you about me, right? But anyways, back to you. So, you've also had some hardship in your life. And one of the things that's always impressed me about you, flourishing is not, hey, everything in my life is awesome, therefore I'm thriving. Flourishing is sometimes dealing with the hard. It's walking through the mud. It's making tough choices, right? Like we got to stop kidding ourselves. Your destiny is going to be costing you everything, right? It's not going to be something that you sleepwalk into. You got to get it together. And you have experienced that in your life. So tell us a little bit about some of the hard things you've had to walk through.
DV, domestic violence.
Okay, I thought.
And
for a minute, I thought you said TV, but.
Well, TV can
DV
be
is far worse.
TV is interesting because we'll get back to the DV. It's a little rabbit trail. TV was actually my comfort place when growing up because when my mom was raising my sister and I, she worked 3 to 4 jobs.
Okay.
We hardly ever saw her, so I remember it was like 4 p.m. Mountain Time after school. I'd have snacks and I'd sit down and watch Oprah. And little did my mom know a lot of the traumatic things that sometimes Oprah shares, right? And some of the guests she has on stage. Yet that really set me up to have an open perspective and open mind and realizing that this world isn't perfect and it never will be. Yet everything that happens in life is based on personal choices that I choose to make or personal choices that I choose not to make.
Right.
And so working through broken relationships at home, and interesting to hear you share your story, Abe, about stuff that you heard as a child and things you've seen, experienced, and felt. I've actually seen, experienced, felt the same things.
Wow.
Being a small child, feeling helpless and going through all these things. Yet I'm always very cautious when I share about that because my perspective and my story and my experience of that is so different than the other parties that were involved. And those were the tough times where I realized that I don't have to be a victim to any situation or circumstance. I can choose to step out of it. And the times that I felt helpless is because maybe I didn't have the actual external resources, yet what I had was internal resources to pull off of.
Right.
So in my early 20s, I was able to tap into some friends who were able to help me get a place of my own. And we shared this, I shared this a little bit on the money story, that course that we had yesterday, is that this was in 2009 when the real estate was going up and people were like, you're crazy, you're buying a house when prices are going up. I said, hey, it's either that or be an environment that's unhealthy. And I went with a B lender. And sadly to say at this moment, I'm still waiting to break even. Yet what I learned from that and the strength that I could pull from that is I could do anything I put my mind to. Yeah. So when tough things happen, even whether it's personal stuff now to business, that I know that when I really set the intention, I can make it happen.
That's awesome. So, and I love that share. So you're also a mom and you're married, right? You've been together with your hubby now for
24 years.
24 years. That's a long time. Like I'm only 25. And so basically as long as I've been alive, she's been together. No, not quite. But tell us about that. Like, right now, I think relationships are under a lot of pressure. And I know a lot of younger people are struggling to find that person. And, what can you share with us, being with the same person now for as long as you have? I mean, there's got to be some wisdom in that for kind of the rest of us. So what would you share about that?
Communication, authentic communication is huge. And also for me, learning how to pause, reflect on myself first before I point the finger. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to say, oh, he's this and he's that, he should, he didn't. Yet that is actually a very unhealthy place to be because it feels gross for me to actually blame someone. Right. And it also feels gross for him if he feels attacked. Right. So a lot of the tools I've learned in previous personal, professional development arenas, including here at Flourishing, is how do I come from I? This is how I feel when I see this, when I hear this, when I experience this, versus you made me feel this way. Right. And a lot of times I've noticed in the past 24 years of being together and married for 14 is that there are going to be ups and downs. Mm-hmm. There definitely are. I mean, going to social media thinking, that couple is so happy, that family's got it together. You know what? We all have dysfunctions of some sort. And it's realizing that we cannot count on social media or the television shows to show us all this stuff. And I'd say turn off the shows that are showing unhealthy patterns.
Yeah.
People yelling at each other all the time. I grew up with that. I'm done. When my kids are bickering, I'm like, look, take it outside. Like, I don't need to hear it. I'll buy you a bike rack. You could take it to the bike rack, right? Yet I just realized healthy communication is huge. Learning how to listen intentionally, take turns listening, take turns speaking.
That's great.
And coming from I, not you.
And then you have 2 kids, and how old are they?
12 and 14.
Okay, and tell us about that. Like, kids are really operating in a different environment than when, you or I would have grown up. And I don't think a lot of adults totally understand that, but it's just so different. And what would you say, advice you could give to help parents to flourish and to help raise flourishing kids?
Great question.
Because I know your kids quite well, and they are flourishing. I mean, no one is perfect, but they are thriving. And I know that you and your hubby put a lot of attention and focus on them. And so what are some wisdom nuggets you could share with us about that?
Yeah, first off is healthy boundaries and healthy discipline. Kids may kick and scream. Okay, kids, actually, they will kick and scream. Not they may. They
Hopefully
will.
not bite too, but sometimes
they might. They might, right? And the thing is, kids don't tell you that they love boundaries and they love discipline. Yet I'm looking at where my kids are now, and a lot of people have said, Cynthia, you're so harsh. You're all, when they were younger, I was like, okay, this is nap time, this is dinner time, this is breakfast time. And I was very structured when they were younger, because what I knew is that if I don't structure them at the beginning when they're young, I'm going to be paying the price when they get older.
Yeah.
Right. And the habits that they learn of sleep, eat, learning what to say no to, not having to go to every single birthday party. Like, seriously, not only is it good on the wallet, it's good on their mental health. Because I find that when we feel like we need to satisfy other people's needs more than our own,
right?
It creates this pattern of people pleasing.
Oh, geez, people pleasing.
And I teach my kids, people who love you and accept you for who you are will not expect you to be at every single thing that they put out there.
Love that.
So discipline is about healthy patterns of self-care, well-being, boundaries, and it also comes down to definitely when you talk about mental wellness.
Yeah.
Actually, my daughter has a session with a therapist on Saturday.
Okay.
Because I'm grateful to be in the space where we're in this flourishing community. I've learned a lot through our certifications and our coaching with parenting and relationship. Yet there are some things I feel that my daughter would be able to be supported in by talking to a third party.
That's awesome.
Safe third party.
Absolutely. And she's 12, right?
She's 12.
Yeah, no better time to start.
And she's
process.
excited. There's the stigma when we were growing up. I grew up I was born in 1980. I was flattered the other day at a workshop. Two people thought I was in my 20s.
Wow. Okay. Happens to me all the time too.
Right?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Wild.
And the thing is, we just talked about it. You're like, wow, you have kids that are that age. I'm like, yeah, except, that's the gap is where we feel like we can do it all as parents.
Yeah.
Reaching out is so helpful.
Yeah. Like as the parent, you do have a defined role, but that is not everything. Yeah. So, and I think that when parents do that, they're breaking their back trying to be everything to their kids. I love the fact that your 12-year-old is going to see a therapist, because it's like, hey, is there an opportunity for that person to support her in everything that you and your husband are doing with your daughter to help her, right? And they just may have different tools or a different perspective, or maybe even a different level of confidentiality in a sense, right? And that's really important. Yeah,
because growing up in 1980s, it's a stigma.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're seeing 100%. A shrink.
Yeah.
And now it's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super healthy.
That's right. All the cool people go for coaching, go for therapy, get help, right? Yep. So so we started by just talking about your journey, and then evolved into your relationship, and then into parenting. What's happening for you right now when it comes to business?
Business, working through the muck.
Okay.
Business is great, and everything that I've learned is through meeting the right people. I believe in divine relationships, And so a lot of the stepping stones, and I always say hindsight, like just 2020 vision, right? And to be able to see all the people that's helped me get to where I am today, I truly honor them. And Abe, you're one of them, right? Met you and your wife over 10 years ago at church, and lost contact after a while, ended up working on a project together, realizing, hey, we jive and we kind of understand each other in a specific way. We can have some disagreements, yet it's never the end of the world. No. And I think that's great business-wise, is being able to set those boundaries between a personal relationship, personal friendship, and then being able to be focused on, okay, what do I have to offer the world, and the value of it, right? So transitioning from director of operations to more of sales and helping people find the right fit, it's been interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on something there, and I want to circle back to it. And I always like to think about the idea of resilient relationships, because I actually believe that and maybe because in a lot of our workshops lately, we've been dealing with relationships where we're teaching on that and the connection, team building, leadership, mental health, etc. One of the expressions that is almost driving me crazy. I'm not quite at crazy level yet. But it's just when people are like, oh, you triggered me. And it's actually like I can't remember the last time somebody said that to me, but I hear it in culture all the time. And one of the reasons I'm concerned about that is because I often think, well, if someone triggered you, well, you're the one who's holding the loaded gun. So what is it about your mental health and your way of handling your emotions that's got you so, pent up, that somebody can trigger you? Now, let me be really clear. Like, I 100% believe that our obligation is to create a psychologically safe environment for each other, to always be respectful, to be empathetic. But you said something that was really interesting. You said that even when we disagree, we have a solid relationship. And I think somehow people expect today that relationships are always going to be about like back rubs, and Cynthia always says stuff that just makes me feel great. She doesn't challenge me. And then we wonder why, like, we have massive relationship breakdown. I think, adaptive, resilient relationships can weather and repair even through conflict, right? And so what do you think about that?
Oh, this is a great topic. I could talk forever about this,
Okay,
Dave.
Look out, everybody. Just put your headphones on and strap in.
Yeah, right? Just cancel the rest of your day here.
That's right. Here we go.
Just listen in, right? It really comes down to 100% personal responsibility.
Okay.
I cannot blame other people for what I'm experiencing. Yeah. I really cannot. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling like crap is hitting the fan, if I feel like the wheels are spinning too fast and I cannot catch up,
right,
I'm responsible.
Fair enough.
Right? Like, I could say, hey, Abe, you've put so much on my plate that I just can't. I don't usually use that word because can't is such a limiting word.
It's a 4-letter word.
Right? A lot of 4-letter words can be positive or negative. Yeah, like, it's okay. So let's pause here for a minute. Yeah. If I'm feeling triggered, it's not about the other person. Yeah. It's like you mentioned the other day, and it was kind of like, I don't cry when you ask me, how are you? Because you ask me in a genuine, authentic way, which I've been sharing that. Yet it's because there are things that I haven't dealt with. And I've mentioned earlier too, that everything that is happening in my life now, it's based on all the choices that I've chosen to make, and based on the choices I've chosen not to make.
Right.
And so when I come from a place of 100% personal responsibility, then that is a way of protecting the relationship. Yes. I'm not going to blame you. No. For me, like I was sharing earlier too, it's funny how everything, no coincidences, work together. I was sharing in the sales team training today how I came, in the 4.5 years I've worked together with you so far, Abe, I don't think I've walked into the place where I was like a big ball of rage. Okay. Yesterday, I came in and I felt gross with myself too. Right. Because I felt triggered knowing that there's work expectations on me, yet I really felt like going to the blame of, well, this person should, this person should, this person should. And I really took a moment to, before I even verbalize all the blame too, is think, okay, well, that doesn't come up from a place of empowerment, because how do I take personal responsibility for results?
Right.
Whatever other people choose to do or choose or not to do, those are out of my control.
Yeah.
And so what did I do? I shared with you, Abe, I am not good. And I'm glad you asked me. Well, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Right? I just got to do what I got to do and I'll be just fine. And I jumped into a meeting that I was a little bit resistant to. Yet then what I found was when I came out of that meeting, that a sales team training meeting,
Yeah.
I felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
As it was,
awesome.
I was able to shift my mindset. I chose to do something I was resistant to.
Right on.
Yet I came out the other side and I felt so much better. Instead of blaming other people, you get that sense of empowerment. When I start to blame, oh, you this, you that, again, it's just like with my marriage, it actually disempowers. So for me, I find, and I encourage you to do the same thing, is to take your power back, is be 100% responsible.
Yeah.
For every choice that you make, or
Right.
every choice that you choose not to make.
Yeah.
And that's how I find we have that relationship where it's not blaming, it's understanding and being able to work through the tough stuff together.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I mean, there's a lot there, right? From just taking responsibility to being aware of your own emotions, to really trying to understand where's the line between what I need to own in this situation versus where maybe members of my team or maybe my boss or whatever needs to own. And I just think that what that really speaks to, all of it, is having a level of self-awareness that's so critical. And you know what's so cool about yesterday is then we rolled right in there to a workshop with a group of people in business who were profoundly, positively impacted by that. And I think, you know, the kind of work that we do is, you know, we work in business, we work in entrepreneurship, we work in sales, but ultimately we're working in people's hearts. And that's hard work. And I actually think that we experience opposition. I think, you know, if you want to use a spiritual language, there's nothing easier than just being a taker and just going through life trying to make the most money you can and do the best thing that you can for yourself. But I think when you make that shift to say, how can I use my talents and my heart and my abilities to serve people? I actually think that you become a threat to the forces of evil out there. And I'm happy to say that we are strong and we are resilient. I had to remind myself this week that I'm a giant slayer. And sometimes it feels like I'm the one who's getting slayed. But then you look in the mirror and you recognize, hey, I've got this. And I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to operate at my highest and my best rather than go down to that lowest common denominator. So one final question. What do you think is happening right now in business? And what do you think it takes in business or entrepreneurship in general for people to thrive today?
First is to be open to new opportunities.
Okay,
be open to new opportunities and doing things a bit different, right? And a lot of that means going out to meet people, right? It's so easy to be behind a device, behind a computer, and just attempt to join these networking groups and seeing if you can share about what you do or learn about what other people do and see if there's room for collaboration.
Right on.
It's kind of like dating, right? Online dating. You just don't know what you're going to get. There's all these different things out there. Let's just give back to old school in-person networking.
Just connection.
Like I love our past week or so where we had the YYC Entrepreneur Connect.
Awesome. Yeah.
It was a great turnout and we had a whole bunch of business leaders there, entrepreneurs. And I actually met with one of them this past week.
Nice.
And she shared with me, I just started my business 6 months ago.
Wow.
I've been going to all these
cool.
different networking events, yet a lot of them are ran by super huge corporations.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get a chance to meet anybody.
Right.
It was just in and out and they were sharing what they were doing and there was really no real connection.
Yeah.
She's like, I love what you guys did because she was able to find few people that she could potentially collaborate with.
That's awesome.
Right. And I'm meeting with another young gentleman today in the finance industry.
Yep.
And he's wanting to learn more about sales.
Right.
And that's the thing about business nowadays is about how do we have meaningful conversations such that we can actually find out whether what we have is a fit for someone or not.
Yes.
We're not here in business to shove things down people's throats.
Yeah.
It's, hey, this may or may not be for you. And I love that about our Flourishing family is that we have such a big, huge pool of expertise and knowledge and talk about academics too, right? The tangibles and intangible support that we have that people can tap into. So in order for people to thrive nowadays, just go back to meeting people in person.
Yeah.
And knowing that, you got to do your due diligence.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so cool because like even me, like, Cynthia knows this and we'll close with this, but we never really shut down through the pandemic. Even when we had stay-at-home orders here in our place where we live called Alberta, I still went to work every day, because I'm my own boss, and our government said, well, you get to deem as an owner of a business who is essential. And so I deemed myself essential and went to work every day. Now, some of our staff didn't, and that's 100% fine. And others did, like yourself. I mean, except for certain times when maybe you're looking after your kids, what have you. I say that to say that at that event that we did last week, now we're like 2 years out of the pandemic, there was people who said, this is the first networking event I've been at since before the pandemic. And I was just shocked, right? Because it's like, I never stopped connecting with people, but I did have to limit, and I did have to, of course, comply with the laws and all of those things. But there's something about connection. Like people right now are so hungry for that. And I think if there's any gift that we can offer people as we close this conversation, it's stop selling products and start creating connection, right? Because maybe you're selling that thing, you young entrepreneur, you want to make it happen, you want to make a name for yourself. Absolutely, do that, go for it, we're cheering you on. But understand that people do business with people that they like and that they trust. And if you can become that person, I'll tell you what, they may not do business with you today, but at some point they'll either do business with you or they'll connect you to someone they know that you can help because of that relationship of like and trust that you've established. And nobody does that better than you, Cynthia. So thank you for joining us on this podcast today.
Thank you, Abe. Appreciate you.
Okay, everybody. Well, hey, that's it for today. Please do, I'd love for you to leave a positive review for our podcast. Give us a 5-star if you don't mind. Subscribe, and please do tune in to our next podcast. And thank you so much.